Today, I want to look at three questions. Why did this war between the United States and Iran start? How will this war end? And what will happen after this war ends? And to answer these three questions, we need to discuss the nature and structure of our reality. And the first thing you need to understand is that our world is a hallucination. So to understand this idea, let's look at Plato's allegory of the cave. And so in this cave, we're deep inside the earth and it's dark. There's some light coming in, but not much. And we're chained to the ground. And we can't really move. We can't get up. We can't move around. Even our necks are shackled. So we can't turn around and see the world around us. Behind us is great fire. There are people around this fire. We don't know who they are. And what they do is this. They take puppets and then they reflect the puppets onto the wall, creating shadows. And we're mesmerized by these shadows. And we think these shadows are real because we don't know any better. So we give them names in order to tell stories about these shadows. And this becomes really our collective reality, okay? What's really important to understand is that what creates this reality is our conscious, our perception, not anyone else, us, okay? So in other words, it is our conscious attention that creates wealth in this world. And it is really money or capital that extracts and stores our consciousness and turns it into wealth. This reality is structured to extract our consciousness in order to create wealth for the elite. Okay, and historically, there have been different mechanisms that you can use in order to extract and store wealth. All right, so you have maybe religion, okay? And the main mechanism to extract and store wealth in today's world, of course, is the US dollar. But there's another force that's being created in order to replace the US dollar, and this is called artificial intelligence. There's actually a war going on for the soul of humanity. All right? Second thing that I need you to understand is that these people, we don't know who they are, okay? What we do know is that they don't force us to do anything. There's not enough of them. The way they maintain power is through manipulation and trickery and deception. And we know this because in Plato's allegory of the cave, one day, for whatever reason, one guy decides, I feel as though this is not the real world. I feel as though there's something outside this cave. So he or she starts messing around with the chains and realizes, these aren't chains. These are just like ropes. And this chain around my neck, it's like a ribbon. I can snap it off. And when he does this, they don't even care. Like, whatever, man, do whatever you want. And so he releases himself. He's blind because he's been in the dark all his life, but somehow he recognizes that there's this light outside the cave. And he is compelled to this light. So he's walking, stumbling to this light. And again, they are like watching him. They're like, we don't care. Do whatever you want, man. He goes out into the light. And now he's outside. And at first he's in pain. He struggles to reorientate himself to this new world. But then eventually he falls in love with this world. It's a beautiful world. And he's like, oh my God, this is the real world. The cave is a fake world that we created ourselves. Let me go back there and tell everyone. And when he goes back, the elite, don't stop him. Like, whatever you want, man, do whatever you want, okay? So you think they have an army and you think that they're evil, but really all their power rests on our belief in their power. Okay, that's something you need to understand. The third thing you need to understand is that even though this is a fake world, people don't know this. They think it's real. In fact, they believe it is so real that they are willing to die for it. So that when this man who's seen the truth, who's come back to tell everyone, we can break free and escape into the real world, if he dares to tell them this, together they will kill him. So in other words, the reality is a hallucination. It's created by us, but we fall in love with it. We're so attached to it psychologically and emotionally that if anyone tells us it's fake, we kill them for it. So it's these three things I want you to keep in mind as we explore our world. Because our world is actually just Plato's cave. So you need a force in order to create this reality, to chain us. And this force, of course, is called the American Empire. Basically just the military. But they themselves don't really want to control this world because they're an army. So what they do is they allow the creation of a financial order, a global financial order, which then constructs the game. And these people then construct the reality that we live in. Okay, so this is the global financial order. Well, at the very top is something called the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. Below them is the World Bank, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and then below them are something called the central banks. Okay, so the Federal Reserve in the United States, the People's Bank of China in China, okay, the Bank of England in England, okay. Together they create the global financial order. And what is the global financial order? It's just to use the US dollar as a main mechanism of wealth extraction and wealth storage, okay? Okay, the ones above us who's constructed the game and controlling the rules of the game as we play it, okay, the game masters. Okay, so once the game has been created with the rules and incentives, now we can play the game. And this game is called the global economy. And the purpose of this this global economy is to have everyone play as much as possible so that wealth can be transferred from the world to the United States. And they do this through two mechanisms. The first is the US dollar. So every time you use the US dollar, you're actually paying a tax to America because America has the power to print as much US dollars as it wants, okay? And the second way is through something called price hierarchy. So the global economy is divided into tiers, okay? So resources are considered the cheapest. Above resources, of course, is manufacturing. And above manufacturing is knowledge economy. And then the highest is finance, basically the game masters. All right, so and as we can see, once we have this price hierarchy in place, what we can do now is divide the world according to the specialties, okay? So resource, of course, would be Russia, the Middle East, the GCC, okay? Saudi Arabia, these places, okay? So these places provide resources. Manufacturing then would be China. Knowledge would be Europe. And then finance, of course, the United States. All right, so as you can see, this is a system that benefits the United States to the detriment of China and Russia. But this is how the game is structured. Of course, if the United States doesn't like you, what it can do is not allow you to play this game. And these countries, of course, would be North Korea and Iran, among other countries, okay? So China and Russia isn't happy about the system, but at least they get to play. Of course, you can't have people believing that, okay, this entire global economy is structured so that the West can steal resources from everyone else. So what you do is you create another layer called the rules-based international order. The UN and the WTO, okay, World Trade Organization, okay? This is called the rules-based international order. But it's really controlled by the empire, okay? All these are just basically shadows on the wall that the empire is creating, projecting, okay? To fool us into behaving the way the empire wants. So now that you have the system in place, what you need to do is indoctrinate people into believing that the system is fair and good, okay? And you do that through three mechanisms. These three mechanisms, of course, are education, media, and culture. What is education? Well, schools, guys, and universities. You think that you go to university to learn knowledge. No, you don't. You go to university to be brainwashed. Then, of course, you have media. CNN, BBC, New York Times. Each time you read an article, you think you're receiving news. You're not receiving news. You're being brainwashed into believing that this order is fair, just, and appropriate, okay? A phrase that you'll keep on hearing over and over is rules-based international order. It's Plato's cave. It's a deception. And the last, of course, is culture, which is Hollywood. Right? So these are three mechanisms in which this order is basically indoctrinated into everyone, so that you don't even know this is a deception, okay? And this is all to create values and norms, okay? Just the way you see the world, which allows for the creation of a legal structure, so that if you break the rules, it's not that the elite will come after you. They don't have to come after you because everyone else will come after you. Okay, not the elite, but the people around you will kill you because you are breaking their fantasy. Okay, you're destroying their fantasy. The problem, though, is that you need to spread the system. Okay, so there's three problems. Okay, first of all, you have to protect this system, the status quo. Then you have to spread this system as well, and you do that through three transnational organizations. And these are, first, of course, is intelligence. Their job is to infiltrate other nations' elites and co-opt them into this system. That's what intelligence does. Then you have crime. It just engages in the most profitable enterprises, which includes, of course, drugs, human trafficking, and something called money laundering, okay? And this is a way to incentivize the global elite to work together. And then there's one more mechanism called science. Now you think that science is about pursuing the truth. No, it's not. Science is fundamentally about finding evidence to justify and protect the status quo. So we have to remember, like, this system is trying to create values, right? And these three major values is something called the open society. What is open society? It's just basically globalization, multiculturalism, DEI, right? Diversity is good. Why is it good? Because it's good. Okay, do you understand? They never provide a reason, but it's always, well, you don't believe it, it means you're a racist. Okay, so open society. Second is the idea of privatization, okay, or what we call neoliberalism or free market. Governments suck at what they do. Therefore, you should allow private entrepreneurs to control everything. Again, there's not much evidence to support this, but if you don't believe this, it means you're a communist. And the last thing, of course, is consumerism. So consumerism is just like, how do you prove your value in life? Buy things, man! Okay, and then put it on Instagram so that people can like it, you know? That's the value of life, man. Get a super hot girlfriend and then broadcast it on Instagram, and then you're a hero, okay? This system is making people lonely, miserable, depressed, but, well, it's because they're not taking enough drugs, right? If you're depressed, you should take antidepressants, and that will solve the issue, right? Okay, but this is how the system works. If it is true that this system is the way it is, there should be individuals in place that operate the system. Well, I'll give you some names. I'll give you two names. Jeffrey Epstein and Jared Kushner. All right, so now what I want to discuss is the problems of this system. And once you understand the problems of this system, then we can understand why this war in Iran is happening, where it's going, and what this means for the world, okay? The first major problem is all this is based on empire, the perception of empire. And what this means is that everyone has to believe that the American empire is invincible. It cannot be defeated for the system to work. Once people start to believe that there are alternatives, that the empire is weak, then the system cannot work. You understand? It's like being the school bully, right? People pay you money because they think that you're a bully and you are not reasonable. And so to prove that, every now and then you have to go beat up another kid for no reason, okay? You're just smack the kid and everyone's afraid of you. That's America. To prove to the world that I'm still the biggest, baddest bully on the block, so you better obey me or I'll come beat you up, okay? That's the first problem. Second problem is that this system, as you can see, is really, really unfair to a lot of countries. Iran, North Korea, Russia specifically. This helps us understand why Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. Because you're trying to renegotiate this system. And the way you renegotiate this system is by showing the empire is not so tough, right? But this also shows us why America refuses to surrender Ukraine. Ukraine has absolutely no chance. Why is this war continuing? Because if the perception that empire is weak, that empire can be defeated, if people are aware of this entire edifice collapses, okay? So America has no choice but to keep on fighting. And this helps us also explain why America invaded Iran. And now we understand what Iran is doing. Iran is now attacking this entire edifice. If you think about it, what Iran recognizes is this. I cannot attack empire directly. Okay, it's too powerful. I'm not going to attack the education, media, cultural system of America because it's too embedded. So the only thing I can attack is what? the global economy, right? That's why they closed off the Strait of Hormuz. It destroys the entire edifice, you understand? It is a house of cards. You find the weak point, and you hit it so it all collapses. And what this also tells us is this: there can be no ceasefire. There can be no truce. There can be no peace, because both the American empire and Iran are fighting for the nature and structure of reality itself.